The man who became president at 42 died wishing he'd never left the job. That's the part they don't tell you about Theodore Roosevelt. The part where ambition doesn't fill you up, it hollows you out. He was sickly as a child, asthmatic, weak, the kind of boy who couldn't breathe right, couldn't run without his chest collapsing inward. His father, the man he worshipped, told him he could build his body through sheer will. So Theodore did. He lifted weights, he boxed, he forced his lungs to expand. But here's what that does to a person. When you spend your childhood fighting your own body just to survive, you never stop fighting. You can't, because stopping feels like dying. His father died when Theodore was 19, suddenly, no warning. And Theodore wrote in his diary that the light had gone from his life. He didn't process grief the way most people do. He ran from it, literally. He went west to the Badlands, became a cowboy, shot things, rode horses until his body ached. He was performing strength because he couldn't afford to feel weak, not for a second. Then his mother and his wife died on the same day, same house, 14 hours apart, Valentine's Day, 1884. His wife had just given birth to their daughter. Theodore was in Albany, working. He came home to find both women dying of different diseases under the same roof. He drew an X in his diary that night and wrote, "The light has gone out of my life." Then he never spoke his first wife's name again, not to his daughter, not in his autobiography. He erased her. That's not strength, that's terror. Terror of feeling anything he couldn't control. So he went back to the Badlands, became a rancher, pretended he could outrun memory by working himself into exhaustion. But the winters were brutal. His cattle died. He lost most of his inheritance, and slowly he realized something. The wilderness wasn't an escape, it was a mirror. He saw himself out there, alone with his thoughts, and he couldn't stand it. He returned to New York, remarried, had more children, threw himself into politics with the same manic energy he used to rebuild his lungs as a boy. He became police commissioner, then assistant secretary of the Navy. Then he did something most people thought was insane. When the Spanish-American War broke out, he resigned his position and formed a volunteer cavalry unit, the Rough Riders. He wanted to fight, needed to fight, because fighting made sense to him in a way peace never did. He charged up Kettle Hill in Cuba, bullets everywhere, men dying around him, and he felt alive. That's the thing about Theodore Roosevelt. Violence clarified him, action clarified him, stillness made him unravel. He came home a war hero. Within 2 years, he was governor of New York. Then, the Republican Party, tired of his reformist energy, tried to bury him in the vice presidency, a ceremonial rule, powerless. But 6 months later, President McKinley was assassinated, and Theodore Roosevelt became the youngest president in American history. And he loved it. He loved the power, the attention, the ability to reshape the country with his bare hands. He busted trusts, built the Panama Canal, conserved millions of acres of wilderness, negotiated peace between Russia and Japan, and won the Nobel Prize for it. He was everywhere, all the time, a whirlwind of energy and ego. His children ran wild through the White House. He boxed in the basement. He gave reporters access like no president before him. He was the first true celebrity president, and he understood that power wasn't just about governing, it was about performance. But after 2 terms, he kept his promise not to run again. He stepped aside, handpicked his successor, William Howard Taft, and then he left, went to Africa, shot elephants and lions, collected specimens for museums, wrote articles, stayed busy, because stopping still felt like dying. Except Taft didn't govern the way Theodore wanted. Taft was his own man, and Theodore couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand watching someone else sit in the chair he still believed was his. So he did the unthinkable. He ran against his own hand-picked successor in 1912, split the Republican Party in half, created the Progressive Party, the Bull Moose Party, and launched a campaign fueled by ego and rage. He didn't win. Woodrow Wilson won, and Theodore Roosevelt, the man who had been president, war hero, adventurer, the man who had bent the world to his will, became irrelevant. That's when the cost became visible. His son, Quentin, the youngest, the one he was closest to, enlisted in World War I. Theodore had spent years glorifying war, writing about courage and combat and the strenuous life, and Quentin believed him. Quentin became a pilot, and in 1918 he was shot down over France, killed at 20. Theodore never recovered. Friends said the light went out of him, that same phrase he'd used twice before, but this time it was final. He aged overnight. His health collapsed. His obsession with action, with proving himself, had sent his son to die in a war Theodore had cheered for, and he knew it. He died 6 months later, 60 years old, in his sleep. Some said it was a blood clot, but really, it was exhaustion, the kind that comes from spending your entire life running and finally realizing you were never moving forward. You were just running in place. Here's the truth about Theodore Roosevelt. He built a body that could survive anything. He built a career that changed history. He built a legacy that still echoes. But he never built peace. He never stopped long enough to ask himself why he needed to keep moving, why stillness terrified him, why he had to erase his first wife, bury his grief, charge up hills, shoot animals, reshape nations, stay loud, stay big, stay relevant. Because if he stopped, he'd have to feel it. The weakness, the fear, the boy who couldn't breathe. People remember him as the embodiment of American vigor, the man who lived boldly. But vigor isn't the same as joy, and boldness isn't the same as peace. He once said death had to take him sleeping, for if Roosevelt had been awake, there would have been a fight. Someone else said that about him, actually, but it's the perfect epitaph, because even in the end, he was still fighting. The question isn't whether Theodore Roosevelt succeeded. He did. The question is what he was running from, and whether he ever stopped long enough to realize he'd spent his entire life fleeing a ghost.